Hi, internet.
We are live.
I'm hearing.
Things are starting to ding, which is good.
Yeah, ding-a-ling-a-ling. So tonight's going to be a bit different, folks. We are. I don't know where you're watching or what it says. There's some weirdness behind the scenes here, but we're not going to do a show. But we will have something for you tonight. We're here, obviously, so we're talking. And that's what this is. It's Human Factors and Chill. Is I don't know what the title. I don't even know what the title is. Is it Human Factors Hangout, Human Factors and Chill? I don't know.
Human Factors and Chill has got that. Given that the past two episodes that we've done has had a bit of a sexy thing to it. Then it's kind of almost a theme at the moment, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
It's we kind of needed to. Somebody said to me, "Is what you're going to do next a review of the ergonomics of sex toys or something?" And I was like,
"Ooh,
I hadn't thought of that." On the one hand, I was like, "No, that'd be really bad." Then I was like, "Oh, would it?"
Hold on. Put that one in the bank.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not a bad idea.
Oh man. So we were talking shop before this. So actually, you know what? Let me preface one thing tonight. So if you're watching, no matter where you're watching, the reason we're doing a hangout tonight rather than a full episode is that if you tuned into last week's episode live and noticed any internet dropping, that is still happening. And it is outside of my control. I have contacted the people I need to contact. And there's a potential that during this broadcast tonight, there will be drops, and there will be so the rule is if I'm gone for 15 minutes, Barry is going to end it, and we will be done
in a nice way. I won't just bounce out in a fit of rage. I'll do it in a nice way.
Oh, he's gone. So
you need to come back.
So Barry has signed on to do 15 minutes of solo chatting if if I drop.
Clearly, if Nick's not here, he doesn't know whether I do 1 minute or 15 minutes. We'll see.
Yeah. So, well, I'll know if I get back within that 15-minute window.
I'm not here. It's just like, hello.
Guess Barry left.
Anyone around?
So we would much rather, with a topic like the one that was selected by you all on Twitter and through Patreon, we'd rather do that justice and not have the distraction of getting disconnected every couple minutes on my end. This is also really embarrassing too, because I had a very similar issue happen during the town hall. And since we dropped that, you can go check that out. That was a wonderful time to catch up with some of HFES's leadership, learn about the outreach stuff that they're doing. And throughout it, if you watch it, you can hear me struggle, or not hear me. You can watch me struggle as I get reconnected and my microphone is not connected because of some weirdness with the program that we're using, and so everyone played it off like I was on mute. But really, I was struggling over here doing the.
I've got to say though, you managed that like a star. It was because I was watching it, and I almost, I was sitting there going, and I could see, because I've seen you sort of struggle with this, and you kind of get to know what's going on in the background, and I could sort of see you looking at your eyes sort of going, and I was like, I know exactly what's going on. There's absolutely nothing I can do from back here about it. But everyone else was just, because I think was it Gary who you didn't introduce, and he was just like, oh, well, I'm just going to do it anyway, and I was like, that's brilliant. That was a nice segue from him.
Everyone was a great sport about it. It was it's hard for me in a professional manner to have that happen on a live stage with so many people watching. But you know what? We handled it. We got through, and we got the content across. The slides dropped a couple times. That's okay. It's all out there for you.
Yeah, that seemed a bit weird. Was that just with the restreaming thing?
So when I drop, the slides dropped.
Oh, slides drop. Yeah, of course.
So that's what happened there. The other thing is that I'm very thankful that during the Q&A, 0 drops on my end, so the Q&A is kind of seamless. It's just the weird transitions. Thankfully I was able to get everybody up when they needed to be up and everybody out when they needed to be out, and it wasn't no one was just sitting there for a couple minutes going, I'm done. Next person, please.
Yeah, no, like I said, there was nothing. If you if you listened to our show like live the day before and you knew what the issues were, I think you'd recognize this is still the issues playing. But actually, if you watched it live without knowing any of that, I don't think you'd have actually realized that there was a major problem. It just felt like there was a bit of a
right.
You're not necessarily pressing the right buttons at the right time, so you're just incompetent. Not
exactly. I was going to say it's just Nick's incompetence. He's not pressing the mute button. He clearly just doesn't know how to use technology after 2 years in a pandemic. So so yeah, that's where we're at. And so we just wanted to do this week's episode. It's Justice. It's a really cool one that we will talk about next week on the show. Hopefully with all these issues resolved. About jetpack paramedics. It's pretty cool. So
it is like the guy who's doing it. What's his name? The inventor duty. I forgot his name now. I should know this. Where's the actual story? Gone. No, because I keep on looking at the wrong one. It should
somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, because I've got the same one open twice. That's why. It's because I actually prefer, because you've got obviously the two versions of the story, and actually I prefer the BBC one.
I do too. I don't know why I didn't trace it back and publish that when I put it out there, but the BBC one is the one that I was using as well.
Yeah, no, that's why can't I do that?
Is it Andy Mawson?
Richard Browning, that's the dude.
Oh, Richard Browning. Yeah.
So from Gravity Industries, and I've been following a lot of stuff that he's been doing because he sort of primarily started to do it for the military domain. I mean, some of the photos that he's got there, he's been doing it with Royal Marines and stuff. And but he actually presented at the ergonomics conference last year.
Oh,
about it, which sounds, and this is going to sound really bad to say, but it wasn't quite as cool as I thought it was going to be. Because I thought it was going to be him doing a presentation on the ergonomics of it. Because I'm really interested in, we will go into it way more next week. But fundamentally, it's Iron Man, isn't it? He's got jets on his hands and a jet on his back. So he doesn't have the things on his feet, but we'll give him that. And it's not red. He hasn't painted it red and gold, which I also think is disappointing. He must have a version just in his own garage.
Oh yeah, he does.
Painted red and gold, and he's got a cool hat and stuff. But anyway, he was. I just sort of think, could you imagine you got these thrusters on your hands in real life and you get an itchy nose? How do you itch your nose without burning your face off?
I mean, that's clearly it. You just get it close enough to where the heat just eliminates the nose problem, the skin problem altogether. I
was going to say, the nose. But also, can you imagine like sort of scratching leg or something and you basically got these jet burners? I mean, how do you stop them from burning yourself when you like picking stuff up? I think there's and that's all the sort of stuff from a human factors ergonomist perspective I was hoping he was going to go into.
Honestly, I think at that point you're flying so fast that the wind, the wind buffeting of the face is probably taking care of any facial issues with itching. I'd imagine that your clothes, depending on how loosely fit they are flapping in the wind and therefore agitating the skin, and there's probably some sort of point where you get acclimated to them.
That's true.
And so I wonder if those issues are in fact moot. Although the one thing that I would be interested in is the vibration. The continued vibration of the jet propulsion. Is it smooth enough to kind of, and I mean, what is the continued...
It's hard, can it?
Yeah. What's the continued strain too of like holding those in place? I don't know. There's just a lot of things.
Yeah. I mean, the only way you control, so presumably, and again, this is sort of thing I'd like to have a proper chat with him about, to sort of say, right, so in the because you presumably you're wearing like a gauntlet glove thing with your jetpacks on either side, right? It must have some really thick, spongy, leathery stuff to absorb a lot of that vibration, because it's going to vibrate, and it's going to for a sustained period of time. I think at the moment it can fly about 30 minutes. Am I right in that?
I think it's
around half an hour's worth of flight, and that's quite a sustained period. If you were holding on to, say, a vehicle control, like say a vehicle control a jet joystick or something like that, and you had that sort of level of vibration for 30 minutes, you would get that. Well, now I'm stretching the boundaries of my vibration knowledge, but you can get that syndrome in your arms where you've got that vibration going on. And I've completely forgot the name of it. Anyway, So there's all them sort of clothing issues. But it's also when you're flying, as you quite rightly say, I think while you're doing that, you know, your mind has got to be on the flying because it's all body position, posture. It's a bit like skydiving, just the wrong way. Because that's all about, you know, if you make very small body movements, you make very large maneuvers and all that sort of stuff. So you've got to do that with this. But it's that whole when you've landed. So you land on your thing, and actually some of the videos he does are going from like ship to boat and boat to ship and stuff like that. Really cool to watch on YouTube. So fully recommend.
I want to do a quick clarification too, because I think we're looking at the same 30 minutes, but it's the 30 minutes is referencing something else. The gravity jetpack itself can run for around 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the pilot's weight and other factors. So the jetpack itself has a much more limited time. But yeah, that 5 to 10 minutes is the timeline of flight there. Although let's see here, when was this posted? This was July 13th. So I'd imagine it hasn't improved much since.
No, but I mean it's fuel, isn't it? It's fuel. That's the biggest issue.
The 30 minutes you were referencing was something else in the article about response time.
Yes, it was. So that's a bit stupid then. Yeah, because just again looking at the pictures of it, I mean, I guess this is a good opportunity for us to get into the nitty gritty of these bits, because we won't do that next week. It's the whole. Yeah, it's the whole. I mean, some of the suits in that are looking rather. I like the way they do from the training, because you were talking about how they do the training. So you have to start off tethered.
Mm-hmm.
So you tether to the ground and tether to this almost massive steel. It's almost like a stage structure.
Yeah.
And so you can get up and fly, but you're not going to go more than a few meters up in the air because the chance of death presumably is relatively up there. But if you're flying around as well, and questions to which the answer I don't know. You know, with UAVs and stuff at the moment, you now have, if you're going to do more than sort of, I think, like 2 meters away from the ground, you now have to have a license and all that sort of thing. You're just a random person flying around. Do you need a license to do that? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you could afford one, why would you need a license?
You're not a UAV, are you? Because you're not unmanned. You're literally literally a flying object.
Do you need a pilot's license then at that point?
Maybe. Right? I don't know.
That's interesting.
I might see. I'm now at the point. I'd be quite tempted to book, because I think he's got a book out on the whole thing, and not on the one hand, I'd go. If it's a technical enough book, I'd be quite keen on reading it. But I'm guessing it's probably more about how we got to where we got to.
It's probably the experience, the story.
Yeah. So,
us scientists always asking about the specifics of technical.
So if you want to redesign your own version of said suit, so take the jetpacks and all that sort of stuff, what cool stuff would you have on it?
Oh, like utility wise,
okay,
you have the core jetpack.
Yeah, so you've got a jet on your back, and you've got 2 jets on each arm. So that's a given. And they're whatever kit you need to do to make that happens. You've got that. How else would you trick it out? What would be what would Nick's suit look like?
I'd definitely have some safety features. So there'd probably be a parachute in there for high altitude flight.
Okay.
I mean, presumably. We're talking hypothetical situation. I'm imagining you can harness much more power. You can get a lot higher off the ground.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so therefore, a parachute, some safety mechanisms would be necessary. In fact, I would argue that some quick release mechanism also would be a good thing to have, because I imagine you get strapped into this thing. It's quite cumbersome, and let's say, I don't know, you crash land, and it catches fire on some brush nearby. You're going to need to quickly get out of that situation. And so like having a quick release mechanism on it that you like pull one strap, everything just falls off, and you're able to run away safely. I think that is absolutely crucial.
Oh, but imagine pulling that strap at the wrong time in midair.
Oh yeah. No, there'd be redundant safety features in there, so that way it wouldn't be pulled on accident. It's like the ripcord on a You're not going to accidentally do that. And so that's kind of what I'm imagining, right? So
ripcord,
pull the ripcord on the suit, it just falls off you. Now, this is you're asking me hypotheticals, so this would be totally like I don't know how feasible this would be, but it'd be very cool. Is if you could somehow get an automated mounting system, circa Iron Man 2 with the briefcase.
Okay. Yeah.
Put your hands in the thing and it kind of forms up around you.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. So ease of getting in, ease of getting out. Trying to think of like bells and whistles. I would probably want a heads up display.
Yes. Yeah.
For typical flight related controls, altimeter, a clock, even some compass to give you direction. Maybe even Google Maps on there, so that way you can kind of see where you're going. Can
you imagine trying to do your route with Google Maps whilst you're going? Oh, I don't know.
Turn left turn right do a U-turn.
You can actually get. Sorry, just on this. You can get the jet suit flying experience. £2,500. Or £2,400, which is, I don't know what the conversion. You pretty much 1-to-1, aren't we, on dollars and pounds? So it'd be
close.
That's
that's a little bit more. It's in US dollars. It's around $3,138.
Oh yeah, you are a bit more.
So yeah, it's not quite a 1-to-1 right now. But
that,
yeah.
I mean, and I presume that's a one day. That's just blowing $2,500 just on a day.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? Oh no! No, I'm lying. It's not a day's worth of experience. It's half a day.
Oh, so I mean, you're talking to somebody who's going to blow more than that on a experience at Disneyland to go in a Star Wars hotel.
Yeah, but that's
multi-day.
That's acceptable. Have you done Disney before?
I mean, yeah, we've done like Disneyland. We've done the whole Southern California circuit because we lived there for a long time.
Right.
But the Florida location has a hotel that's completely decked out in Star Wars. Like it is a Star Wars hotel. You are living an experience. It's pretty cool. From what I hear, and it's very expensive for 2 nights. So
yeah, we did a. Not a Star Wars thing, but we went because we quite like Lego and stuff. So for my wife's birthday, we went and stayed in the Lego hotel.
Oh,
which was really cool. So everything was decked out in Lego, and you know everything was made, so it looked like Lego and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
so that was quite good. I quite enjoyed that. But,
yeah, there's a Legoland right by my my childhood home.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, no stranger to that.
It's my friends are out at Disney at the moment.
Oh, okay.
I'm sort of seeing photos of what they're doing, coming back and sitting there. Because I've never been to Disney in the States. We've only done Disney in Europe. So
okay, is that Paris?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was we drove down there, which was but that's going back a couple of years now. Actually, it must be about 5 years ago. Crikey, that goes back away. It's amazing how time is just. And I met up with somebody today. Yesterday. It's still Thursday, isn't it? Yes. So I met with somebody yesterday who I haven't seen since before the pandemic, and you know it was a business meeting, but we were also good friends, so it was good to catch up and all that sort of stuff. And it's just amazing how everybody sort of talked to him and said, "Oh yes, it's that whole 2 years of the pandemic. No matter what happened during with lockdowns, non-lockdowns, you sort of just forget that 2 years had happened.
Yeah.
In terms of when you've seen people, you're like, oh, just before we moved in, and you're like, and that was like 4 years ago now. So
right.
Yes, it's interesting how we perceive that bit of time.
I want to go back to something we were talking about. So you had asked me what my bells and whistles on the Gravity Jetpack would be. What are yours?
So you'd have to have a paint job.
Okay.
And you could go down the red and gold, which is a bit cheesy because that is just taking the Iron Man thing and all that sort of stuff. But I'd be quite tempted to go down the whole, the silvery chrome route.
Okay, so like Mando.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking more of the what's the other guy in Iron Man who his costumes,
War Machine.
War Machine, that's the one. Yeah. But that sort of route. And The heads-up display, I think I'd steal from you, because I think that's. But for me, it'd be quite simple. In terms of you'd have like just a big sort of direction finding arrow, where you need to go. But also the readout display of the fuel, because I sort of have this when I was sort of chatting about this yesterday. Imagine if you're flying high, like what they do on Iron Man. He basically flies high into space, and sort of towards the end of, I think it's Iron Man 1, where then they sort of run out of fuel and all that sort of stuff. But imagine being up there and actually doing that whole flying up and going, oh, I'm quite high. Oh, and then you on here, and you're like, how do you then get back to Earth? So maybe so then you'd need some sort of batwing to come out.
Okay. Yeah, some glider mechanism. Yeah.
I think that would be a bit. Yeah, so you can you either end up being almost like one of these Red Bull guys who have the it's that flying squirrel suit, which then you can do the whole ground effect thing, which I think you've got to be very good to be able to do that. But yes, I'd have that. That'd be my sort of safety mechanism-y type thing.
I do have to just jump in really quick with a quick nerd check. Towards the end of Iron Man 1, it wasn't a fuel issue; it was a freezing issue. So in altitude, the systems were freezing up, and he did not regain control of them until he was very close to the ground. That is how he recovered from that. So
that's because isn't it what he says? Oh, how did you solve the cooling issue or the freezing issue?
Yeah,
he was like, what freezing issue? And then it yes, and then he died. Yeah, good shout, like that.
Yep. Nerd check.
And then, but I guess the whole other thing is, if you've got a heads-up display, but you've got to have a cool helmet.
Okay. Yes.
It can't just be. It can't just be a copy of Iron Man. It can't just be a copy of something else. And it also just can't be a pair of goggles, because that'd be boring. So, and I don't know what this helmet would look like, but it would have to be something really cool,
really unique.
Something, So, I'd have to think a bit more about that, about what that actually looked like. And then I think the only other bit I would kind of think of is you would have some good footwear, good solid footwear for doing takeoffs, landings. But wouldn't you also want them to be magnetic? So if you're landing on something, and then the ability for just when you're getting in close to something, just to be able to switch on the magnet and it just
snaps
to the deck or to whatever your landing thing is.
Yeah.
Which could be like the side of a building or something like that. But fundamentally, just something just to give you that grip. And hopefully you'll be able to switch them back off again, because otherwise you'd be stuck there for a long time.
Yeah. Would that work on an aircraft? They're made out of aluminium, and so I don't know. Had to catch myself. And so would it work on that?
I don't think it would work. I guess you would find a way of making it work, wouldn't you? Because I guess the other way of doing it is, would you, rather than using magnets to do it, could you like basically make it a big suction cup?
You could.
You actually just suck yourself to the thing. Because that's a bit where like the submarine stuff works as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's non-magnetic. Okay, so it would not work. I thought it was not magnetic, but I needed to check.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I didn't want angry Twitter comments calling.
So how could you land on a? I mean, I guess the G-force in landing on a plane in flight would be quite impressive anyway. So you're not just talking a pair of trainers here. You're talking about a decent pair of boots that have to come up like above your ankle, because the chance of you twisting your ankle if you land on a plane whilst it's in flight.
See, okay. So we're imagining very different scenarios. Are you imagining like falling from one aircraft and landing on another as it's heading a different direction? Because I'm like, okay, you jetpack up to it and you're matching its speed and you slowly dock with it. Like, that's kind of the scenario I was thinking of. In which case,
if you've only got 10 minutes flight time, then you haven't got time to mess around with a nice, delicate landing, have you? You need to be, because it's almost. I guess what are you using the aircraft for? So are you using does the aircraft have a launch system? So you go up with the aircraft. You're hanging onto the aircraft, and it's got a big sort of almost a mini kick triangle. So your feet are against that. You go up, and the aircraft then dives down, but you then keep going forward because you then launch off it. I think
See,
we should not talk anymore. We should patent this.
okay. See,
I
so
think-
when you said launch system, I was imagining like an aircraft carrier launch system where you are positioned on something. It totally just launches you out the back end of the plane through like the magnetic why can't I think of the name? Because we're live. That's why I can't.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the
yeah.
magnetic superconductors that gradually increase your speed rapidly, like what they use on rides, and just shoot you out the back of the plane like a rail gun. And you are suddenly in flight, going presumably nothing. your outward speed would match the plane, and therefore you are not doing anything.
Yeah, you're already
falling.
so.
But yeah, so instead of that forward momentum, you have a negative momentum, and you can choose then which direction you want to go. And so it's truly a drop off mechanism that will allow for any approach, any direction of approach. So let's say you're going into a hotly contested territory, you could come in and drop, without having to consider the exit path. You could almost like skim it and then like turn 90 degrees at the very end and drop them, and they could go in, like if you think about military applications.
So it's almost it's the last mile of delivery, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So see, when you were talking about launch, I then had a thing in my head of aircraft carriers. They have the catapults,
right?
What about having effectively a soapbox?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But have it on the aircraft carrier itself.
Okay.
So no other plane involved. You are the aircraft. You strap your soapbox onto the cap trap mechanism.
Right.
Somebody presses go and it launches you. But you'd have to go back to the old Harrier days where they used to have a ramp at the end of the thing. But we can install them. I'm sure we've got one knocking about in a scrapyard somewhere.
For sure.
Put that on the end. So you basically get launched. I mean, them things go pretty quick.
How do you prevent it from falling flat on your ass after?
So, yeah, if you get that wrong and it slips or something and goes, or
like you get your fingers caught underneath, geez, okay, yeah, too much to think about there.
But no, if you go and it just throws you in the air, how much forward momentum and upward momentum would you get? And then just as you reach the perfect, the top of the arc of you being launched, that's when you switch on your own personal rocket boost.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? You know what we haven't talked about yet that would be absolutely crucial for a jetpack is autopilot.
It's true.
Some sort of autopilot mechanism that, like, I don't know, would adjust the thrusters to, because there's two thrusters on each hand.
Yeah, so you got the fore and after of your wrists, basically. Right. Then you got one on your back.
Right, and so there would need to be some sort of gyroscopic effects within each of those to understand its relationship to the ground, and then based on those two boosters, maybe if you had like micro adjusters on the boosters, they could then provide some additional stabilization when not in autopilot, but then could provide full autopilot, and you just need to kind of keep your hands down. It wouldn't be efficient because you're not angling them in the way that they need to, but some sort of mechanism to either, I don't know, like an exoskeleton, a lightweight exoskeleton that locks your arms positions, so that way it can do, locks them comfortably, obviously. So that way, it reduces the fatigue on your arms and your joints. So like, let's say if your elbows or shoulders fail, this exoskeleton will lock into place. Yeah, and try to recover, right? So, like, really, it's just locking mechanisms. It's not a full exoskeleton.
If you're going to have effectively the exoskeleton, you might as well have a short structure on your back that has them extra things, the ones you normally have on your arms. You might as well lock them to that and have it auto-controlled. Right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the problem with having the control, having an autopilot on the ones on your wrists is it's got to have really good understanding, and it could do it just with some devices that you put on them now for, and I can't remember what the name was, but what wearables have them now? Accelerometers, that's the word. So you'd have the accelerometers there that would know the position of your wrist and the direction that each one is pointing in, and therefore what, because that's the way that the big the jet engine on the F-35 works. It completely turns the because you can see it on all the footage. It completely turns the why words live. Hello.
Yeah.
The extract bit of the engine, it turns it and to redirect the thrust, and that's what you'll be talking about with this one. You're lots of saying like 24 of them. It's almost not too far from what Elon Musk does with his
SpaceX. That's what I was thinking.
With his booster engines, because they all do that, don't they? They're all directional.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. That technology just built into all of them, and if you have more control over it, they're all working together. All you need is some fixed point, and so if you have the top of the jetpack here on your shoulders, and there's literally just a connector that goes from your shoulders. That's a mechanical connection down to the arms, right? You already have the fuel lines and the electronic controls.
Yeah,
you already have those, and so all it would be is like an aluminium rod, a set of rods that are free flowing, but then when needed, they lock into place. And
so you've got, for that. Well, I guess if we're spending this sort of money, we'd be getting titanium ones, wouldn't we? Because
I guess that's true.
Money's no object in this project.
Yeah. Let's go titanium because
and you're right. They would have some sort of jointing mechanism that on a command could just lock. Because the other interesting thing about this is as well is it's great, as you say. There's chances are you're gonna get fatigue because holding your arms in the right sort of areas for a period of time. But if you're then carrying kit. So the story we're going to be talking about next week is around, medical, the medical domain. But pick another domain. So why can't firefighters use this to go and assess how bad bushfires are and things like that? But if
start control burns.
Yeah, exactly. And that's true because you'd have them. Oh, that'd be genius. That'd be very clever.
So cool.
We should patent that bit as well. That's about 3 patents we've got tonight, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good job we're not doing this on a live broadcast, otherwise people
right.
all of our ideas.
Steal those ideas.
Yeah. But if you then got to carry kit, so whatever application you're going to do, you need some tools or something to do whatever it is you're going to do with. But you get there, and so you've done a 15-minute flight with this thing, or however long. Probably if it's got a 15-minute flight, you can do a 7-minute flight because you need to get out of there as well, don't you? So anyway, you've done whatever distance it is, because you can go up to about 100 miles an hour. So that's kind of fast. So you could do that, but you get there and your arms are just tired, knackered. How are you then going to carry out? Have the ability to then go and do the job it is that you've got to do because you're going to be fatigued. So I guess it's an endurance issue.
Let's check this out. You also bring up another issue of, yes, you're fatigued, but then what if, it provides assistance with reducing that fatigue if it is an exoskeleton-like thing? Then there's the other piece of it that what if you do lock them into place without your hands in them, and you are then free to use your hands in flight for other things like, I don't know, carrying important objects, or, you could almost think about it would reduce your fuel consumption, and I don't know if it actually worked because of physics, but if you are a paramedic trying to get somebody on a lightweight stretcher, you just carry them in your arms like this with obviously assistance, and this thing is able to get you from point A to point B with some automated systems. That'd be kind of cool. You could also, firefighters, you take a cat in your arms, like small animals or infants out of burning buildings or anything like that, where it would not require a lot of effort to hold on to something, but you need your hands to do that task or that thing, or I don't know, this is a example in Iron Man, but you have Iron Man who is flying alongside a helicarrier and performing maintenance on the outside of it. You could theoretically do something like that where, I don't know, you fly up to the side of the building, lock those things in place, hover, work on the thing, quick task, obviously, especially with the flight time, but you have your hands free to be able to do that thing. Put them back
Not
in.
if you had the suction boots, because you do.
That's true. That's true. If you had the suction boots, you'd be good.
There you go.
Yeah, but so maybe a moving target. Maybe you need to perform maintenance on an aircraft while it's flying. You fly out, and again, suction boots or magnetic boots would probably be better in this situation. But
no, but you need the suit to go and fly up and get you flying alongside whatever it is. Then you need your attaching mechanism. Obviously, possibly, maybe you need suction knees.
Yeah.
Because actually, just having the bottom of your feet wouldn't work very well. But then to be able to do whatever task it is, then detach and go back to wherever it is you're going. Because there's quite a lot of incidents that happen with aircraft when they're putting down the gear and you don't get you don't get three lights. So that's where one of the things that you then have to go and do a flyby of the tower. Can you see if my wheels are locked out? That would be a way of solving some of them issues.
Right. You have a launching system at the airport. Get the jetpack up in the air. You fly alongside at a low pass. Slow and low pass. You lock onto the aircraft. You go in. You do the maintenance. You come out and you land as it's flying by again safely, and then the plane can land safely. Yeah. Look at that, man.
That's a real world solution to a real world.
That is, yeah. I am. You know what, Barry? I am really impressed with our ability to come up with so many practical applications of this technology tonight.
See, I think what we should do is, obviously, when this bit goes out, we need to tag them into it and say that we are very cheap. If this is just what we're doing, just spitballing out with a half an hour's worth of time on a podcast. Imagine what we could do in a room with them with a whiteboard.
Right. Yeah.
Blow their
Consult
mind.
us. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But it is a cool. I mean, fair. I do like it because for me this is very much along the line of what Elon Musk did has done as well, and others, where they've had an idea and they've just done it. That it's a sort of thing that there's loads and there's some really good YouTube videos of him in the early days when he was just using one thruster and just doing a bit, failing, succeeding. Then there's two bits, then there's and just try and fail, succeed, and just going around that loop time and time again. It's really impressive to see that sort of persistence, that sort of
dedication,
drive to do something. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's almost like consistently running up against technical issues in a podcast and failing, succeed. And
we don't ever get that. I mean,
never
that testers.
Never.
Fundamentally, going back to that town hall, did you enjoy doing the town hall?
I loved the town hall. Yeah, no, that was fantastic. I think there's some really cool opportunities that I'd like to talk to you about offline. About some of the future things that we can do. And I left that town hall, despite all the technical issues, feeling really positive. I think it's been positively received so far. I think a lot of people learned a lot about the outreach stuff that HFES is doing. One of the consistent ones I see feedback on is the government relations committee. People just didn't kind of understand what we sit there on the government, but we advocate for human factors in policy, which is pretty rad. So I don't know. It was a great town hall. I loved hosting it. Hope they'll have me back next time, despite all the issues. If they don't, I guess I can't blame them. But look, all the issues. I was talking with my therapist about this because I was very. Look, so I was very upset in the moment because I felt a lack of control over the situation. Obviously, I'm over here on this side, and what everybody doesn't see is all the buttons I click to make this thing happen. That's me doing it. We don't have anybody else behind the scenes here. I couldn't bring up anybody else because there's nobody else here, but it's me clicking all these buttons, and I'm trying to manage all these transitions. I'm trying to manage people coming in and off, trying to manage slides and navigating through the slides. And I'm also trying to sort of make sure that everything's going off smoothly. And so when I encounter all these technical issues that are outside of my control, it's frustrating. And so everything that happened that day was outside of my control, but it also didn't look great. So one thing that happened that is really unfortunate is the stream itself didn't go live on their channels. And so, really? So it was not live on the HFES channel. It wasn't live on their Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. And it was a technical bug with the software that we're using that when somebody pairs their channels more than a certain time out, it doesn't allow for those channels to start broadcast.
They've done them too early.
They did them too early, although it shouldn't be an issue. It really shouldn't be an issue.
It would be an issue, but
so they're aware of the issue. The software that we're using here, Restream, they're aware of the issue, and we're going to ensure that to next time make sure that doesn't happen is to do it within that week window. Although hopefully the problem.
Oh, so they've done it like really organized early.
Yeah, okay. we got punished for organizing so early. Is basically.
I do with about 20 minutes to go.
yeah. So
when you send me a text saying, "Are you turning up?" or
yeah. So right, pairs. Okay. Yeah. So because we were so prepared, we got punished for it. The other thing was obviously the internet issues outside of my control. Still really frustrating, especially when that impacts people coming in and off. But again, like we ran into very little of those technical issues. All those aside, it was a fantastic event. Highly recommend anyone who hasn't listened to it to go check it out. HFES is an international organization too, so no matter where you're listening from in the world, that will be relevant to you, especially as we continue to it's a little teaser as we continue to sort of continue our efforts to be international.
Yes. We just had in the chat Isaac has said hi. So hi Isaac.
Hi Isaac. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out with us. This is a Human Factors Hangout tonight. We're for anyone joining us, this I guess we're 42 minutes into this stream.
Wow.
With no issues. So what's going on tonight is we're doing a Human Factors Hangout a little bit different from our traditional weekly podcast. It's just a matter of all the technical issues on my end. We may still encounter those, and so we do want to do this week's episode, or I guess next week's episode, technically, justice. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that there's no technical issues. It's outside of my hands, but hopefully it'll be resolved by next week. It will be resolved by next week. It'll either be resolved today while we're doing this, which is part of the calculus, or tomorrow morning. So on my end, it'll be fine. But
so are they just going to get a big beefier wire and connect it to your apartment?
I don't know. I think what it is they're using probably decades old wires.
Yes, I guess there's because there's a whole lot of copper to be replaced. Because we sort of chatting about this the other day. There's like various bits of Europe, and so you sort of assume that everybody's got like fiber connections or fiber close, and actually most people don't. We're lucky; we do have fiber to the house, because we were part of an experimental thing when we moved in here, and we were like, "Wow, that's amazing." But then there's so many people who just don't, and particularly, in America where you've got big sway, or like Australia or a place like, you've got big swathes of nothingness. So you've really copper connection or even a fiber connection just isn't a goer. Your satellite connection or that type of thing. So it's you sort of assume that everybody's going to have really good connection just because you do, and it's just not the case.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're replacing a lot of wire or some wire. They said there's one component at least that needs replacing, and I suspect it's largely due to the change in weather. So it's getting a little bit warmer here now, coming out of winter. And with everything warming up, I'd imagine the mechanical connections between some of these things, as metal heats and cools, it expands and shrinks, and so I think some of those connections might just be a little loose, and they just need to make sure they're good. So I don't know. We'll see. I
always
don't.
I always find it fascinating when certainly in the UK, when you drive past one of the telecom vans and they've got these cabinets on your street open, and they're just full of wires. And just from a usability perspective, you're sitting there going, how on earth do you know that wire and that wire, and you just fiddle with that and that all works? Because there seems to be no order. It just seems to be completely. I mean, obviously, completely untrained, therefore all that sort of stuff. But it just seems completely chaotic. But I just haven't had that sort of thing to go up and say, look, human factors practitioner, this just feels offensive. Can you just explain to me what it is that you're doing, how it works? Because you're like, they're not paying me. Just you just don't need to know it. They make magic happen. But yes, it just does look crazy.
Yeah, it is one of those things where it's like I would be very curious to see what kind of human factors thought goes into the organizing, and I mean this is a larger issue, but like the human factors organization of workplaces in general, like especially ones where you are crafting something, because everybody's workflow is very different, and people problem solve in different ways, especially when trying to create something out of something else. And so, like, I don't know, you're working in a woodworking shop, and people prefer different tools and different techniques for different cuts and different joints and all that stuff. And so it's like, how do you organize a workspace that's going to be optimal workflow for 90%? Maybe a little bit less optimal for those 10%, but like, still have everything within a reasonable location within the shop that will naturally flow from one thing to another, right? Like, where are your tools organized in relation to some of the larger cutting saws, or I might be getting too into depth here, but it's fascinating to me.
So we recently have been going around with our eldest daughter, because she's going to university, and so it was that whole which university she's going to go to, blah blah blah. So we're going around and looking, and for me it was fascinating because she's an artist. I am not an artist. I'm an engineer. I don't understand art. I don't get art. I struggle, I think, if it's not really basic stuff. Yeah, I struggle. So we go around all these bits, and they were sort of talking about the display spaces they have to work with. So they all get their own little work area, and there was sort of like the big part for them was obviously the walls. There's basically 2 walls, probably about 1 sheet of board wide, so 4 foot by 8 foot ish, something like that. And then they just had these small tables and I was like, well, how's your workstation organized? Do you have paintbrushes over here? What if you're gonna have some clay? Where's that medium go? How are you gonna sort that? Are you gonna label it properly so you know what type it is? And she was like, Dad, it's just there. We just do it. And I was like, and I just really sort of struggled with understanding
how,
but how does that space work for you? Which then led us on to a slightly different problem. So she's joined the company with us, and because she's, a lot of what we do is visualization. Even just, you're on a PowerPoint slide, you create a visual for to try and get your message across. And I was like, well, could we use her insight into art to make something happen? So we had a client. Still got a client, which is good. But we'd sort of said, right, rather than just doing usual graphs and all that sort of stuff, could we come up with, because Ellie's on the team, a piece of art that represents the data? Now in my head, that sounded dead easy. You're an arty person. Here's some data, make some art out of it. And she was like, well, what do you want? I was like, I don't know. You're the artist. But I couldn't. It was really weird because obviously the way artists normally work is they get inspired by something and therefore they create. But then when I was sort of saying, basically my requirement is I've got some of this data, I want you to represent it in an interesting way. Well, that's not inspirational. That's me trying to just give over requirements. So how do you communicate a work package to an artist to deliver. And I was just like, I don't know how to. I could, if I'm getting project engineer, if I'm getting any sort of mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, I could define a piece of work for them to do. You've got start point, you've got end point. This is what I want to have. It's got to look like this. It's got to. This is the function I want to achieve. But to an artist, how do you do that? I don't know.
Right. I want to follow up on a couple things here, Barry, because there's some really interesting things that we're talking about. One, you say you're not an artist, yet you put out a piece of media almost weekly, sometimes bi-weekly, and therefore I would argue that your commentary, in a lot of ways, is art. I would argue that the pieces of media that you put out into the world, your interview style, your ability to get information out of people on your podcast, is a form of art. I would argue that.
I see where you're coming from. Yeah.
So when you say you're not an artist, I think maybe not a traditional pen on paper, modern art. When you think of art,
yes.
Fine, but I would challenge anyone who says they are not an artist to really think about the things that they are creating, because I also believe that translating research into findings and communicating those findings is also an art. And so thinking about things differently may open some channels for people. I also want to follow up on your requirements for art. I think maybe in this case, right, where you are trying to communicate findings in a piece of art, what do you mean by that? Are you saying, like, let's spruce up a graph? Because I think Edward Tufte would have problems with that. Let's think about maybe, are you thinking like a word chart or like a word cloud or something like that? I guess artists are almost thrive by limitations.
Yes,
because it forces them to innovate, and we've talked about innovation on the show in the past. I think it'd be interesting if you, when you say art is some sort of, you're inspired by something, then I would almost flip that and say, well, aren't you, as the person who is driving this requirement, required to then inspire and say, like, here's the findings that we have. I'm inspired by this because this is so fundamentally important for the thing that we are trying to do. Convey that importance, and then have the artist translate that importance into some sort of artistic rendition.
And I would completely agree with that. Because the way that if you're going to ask somebody to do something, you've got to fundamentally understand what it is you're asking them to do, and to be able to communicate that in a way that is meaningful to both parties. And that's where I couldn't do it. I knew, I wanted a piece of art. Well, what do you want that art to do? I don't know. I just know I want a piece of art. Well, who is the audience? Well, it could be anybody. So I wasn't able to come. I just knew I kind of wanted I had a loose idea, but not in a way that I could communicate it in a way that was meaningful for anybody to pick up. So that was the issue that I was facing in how could I communicate in a meaningful way something that she could then pick up and be inspired by and then go do. And I just couldn't do it around that point. But it was a really interesting learning experience. But I now have a better idea about how I would do it differently. I would probably go and have a sketch of something that I would try and do myself to sort of get, the sort of idea that I was wanting to achieve, and then use that as a springboard to say, to then talk around ideas and stuff like that. But it's just going and saying, I want some art, it wasn't good enough.
Hey, that art thing. Give me one of those. What
yes.
One of the arts, please?
Fact, can you give me two? Just two. One for the front, one for the back.
Yeah. Two
awesome.
arts, please.
Yes.
Two arts.
By Friday.
Yes. Yeah.
But on the plus side, the other thing that she has done for us is we now have roller banners, podcast roller banners.
Ooh.
Which are very pretty. I'm quite impressed with them. So we got them done in time for the ergonomics conference so the live ergonomics conference is in 3 weeks, something like that.
Yes.
And so we're going to have them up so they go behind wherever it is that we end up getting set up.
Yes,
So.
and I think that is a great thing for us to discuss. One thing that's interesting about this format, this Human Factors Hangout format, is that we have not gotten any breaks. And so,
that's true.
Yeah, you know what? I would like to take a quick break. I will be right back. And so when the break ends, it'll probably be Barry for a second by himself, and then I will be.
But don't hold that against us.
Yes, but we'll be back after this break, and we'll talk about future projects because I think it could be very cool. All right, we'll be back after this short break.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast Network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.
It does indeed depend. So if you are listening tonight and you've just come on and wondering what you've come into, then we are doing a Human Factors and Chill, a Human Factors Hangout, because let's be blunt, Nick's internet is rubbish. It's been rubbish for the past week or so. So he has got people, he's got his people to look at it and his people to talk to some other people. And in the next day or so, then they're replacing huge chunks of wire and technical things. So hopefully they'll sort them out. And so what we're doing this evening is we're just having a bit of a hangout, bit of a chat, bit of a natter around human factors-y type issues. So in theory, what we're doing is sorting out the type of bits that we want to talk about for next week's show. Next week's show, we wanted to do justice to. We do want to have it being hung up halfway through. So we are going to talk around, should I say, the idea of the jetpacks produced by Gravity Industries being used by paramedics here in the UK, particularly from the Lake District. And so we're going to be talking about that next week. And so this week we've just been sorting some of that out, having a look at it, seeing if Nick's internet holds up. It is doing stuff, I've got to say.
It's doing all right. And hang on, I have to fix the facade here because I accidentally... Hang on, I'll be right back.
You left your door open. You just can't get the stuff nowadays. So hopefully we're going to be talking about that next week. But if you're listening to us live now, then do drop us a message in the chat wherever you're listening. So whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on Twitch, wherever else that we are broadcasting right now, just drop us a line, say hello, and say where you're from, just so you can give us a shout, and we can then give a shout out to you. If you've got any questions or queries, that can be either to do with human factors if you want it, or they can be on any other subject you like, within reason.
Within reason, yeah.
I don't know what the reason is. I don't know what would we not talk about. I wouldn't go great into futures financing and Wall Street commercial. I've got no idea. I could guess, but this is the wrong podcast for you if you're coming in for that sort of stuff.
Not a financial expert, analyst. So thank you, Barry, for picking up the slack there. It doesn't help that I had 2 water bottles during that first hour of talking. And for anyone watching, this might seem like a semi-permanent. It might seem like a permanent fixture, although it's not. I just pulled back the curtain, so to speak. That this is clipped to the wall here, and I do it before we podcast to make it look like I'm in a professional studio, but really there's a door behind there, and that's how I get in and out. And I'm even noticing now that I didn't put the. There we go. There we go. Now it looks a lot better, and I keep this here to push it up against the wall, so it looks anyway.
It's almost like forget to putting the zip up after you've been out the toilet.
Well, didn't do that, fortunately. So Barry, here's what I'm thinking. This first hour that we've talked was really good. And I would hate for people to miss out on this conversation because we talked about a lot of good things, as it relates to jetpacks and as it relates to art. And I think there's some good discussion there. I think I'm going to package that up and put it out there as a podcast, as a bonus episode. Wow. It's not going to be a full thing. I think the second hour we can reserve for our patrons and everyone who's watching live right now. Kind of resort to talking shop or, anything like that. I think that first hour, though, was pretty solid.
Yeah. We should maybe think about doing that more often. Just freestyle hangouts and
freestyle hangouts.
See where the night takes us.
I've thought about it. The problem is that unless we're focused on a specific thing, it can often be a lot of choppiness. Like, oh, hey, we're flowing from topic to topic to topic, and some topics might be better for audio. I think all of that stuff that we just talked about was great. And so that's the other reason why I played that Patreon commercial, was to kind of mark that ending there.
Good thinking. I like that.
Yeah. So we'll package that up as a bonus episode and send it out for everyone to listen to. Now, you and I are here in what I will consider the Human Factors and Chill post show. Since it wasn't really a show, it was anyway.
It was an event. It happened.
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned the ergonomics conference coming up.
I did. Very exciting.
Yeah. What can you allude to any coverage that you are going to do from the event?
Yes.
Okay.
In theory, I've got no idea how this is going to work yet because we shall see. But we are going to have some elements for 1202 where I'm going to try and pull people in and do short form interviews. So maybe 15, 20 minutes. What have you been talking about? What's maybe, but around specific topics, kind of what we do on the 1202 side. On the other side, what I'm going to try and do is I want to try and kick off some bar conversations or something around that. Around what have you thought about the conference? What have you learned? For Human Factors Cast. So I want to take Human Factors Cast to the bar. I think. So I don't know how this is going to work, but I've got if nothing else, I know I've got some cool. I've got my mobile thingy mics that I can just either chuck on the table or clip to a couple of people and say, and just try and have almost like what we just did for an hour or so, just a bit of bar conversation around what we've done and just try and pull that element together. So, in my head, that's might be what we try and play with. Basically, I want to come out of it. I don't think I'm going to do any. I don't have any plans right now to do any live streaming. I don't think because I don't know what the internet's going to be like. I don't know what the facility is going to be like or anything like that. I'm going to go with a rock solid plan of doing a bunch of recording.
Good.
And pull people in. If I do get to do some live stuff, so I might do some. Because we were only there for 2 nights as well. So the first night. So for this bit, we were only actually away for 1 proper night. So we were there the night before. But clearly, I'm just going to have a couple of half lager shandies or something like that. I'm a good boy. The second night, it will actually be the conference dinner. So there's not going to be that much opportunity to do much there either because we're not entirely sure of the format. So it's fundamentally with the conference dinner, I will not be having a couple of half lager shandies. I will be probably having bottle or so of wine, I should imagine, just in the interest of making people feel comfortable, like they can come together. I really like red wine. Fundamentally after that dinner, I don't think I'm going to be in a place to be able to edit.
Right. No, obviously.
Accuracy. Might be interesting to see what I do come out with, but yeah, so I think if I do get into a bit where I could do some live stream, depending on where we're at and how the conference layout is set up, if we do some live stream of people, almost like doing the people walking by type thing and pull people, because I think that's what you did at HFES in 2018, wasn't it?
Kind of. Yeah.
So that sort of stuff. So
kind of, but it wasn't live. And so this is for anyone watching right now, this is just going to be it's going to be buried in this post show. It's kind of here, so I'm okay with mentioning it. So this is one of the good things I think that came out of that town hall that could be potentially exciting, is live broadcasting from HFES.
That could be good.
Which I am putting together a proposed program of what that could look like. And Barry, if you're game, I would love to do a small scale test from ergonomics conference. So what that might look like is, I've thought about like what the setup might look like actually. And it's, Restream doesn't have a native app yet, although I think they're working on it. Could potentially be in play by...
I'd quite like that.
What's that?
I quite like if as much as I appreciate the fact it's all on, just through a browser and stuff like that. Yeah. There's just a few tweaks that I would like to see that a native app would just work.
Yeah, it would. So here's my kind of I don't know how much I should say, but live streaming could potentially be an option, and what my setup would be, I imagine, is a computer in front of me. With I would shell out for an Elgato face cam. I would bring that with me, and have that be the presenting, the presenting video viewpoint, whatever you want to call it. And I think it would look very much like this. Barry, you would be gone in that case, and I would be standing live on the HFES floor. I'd say, "Hi, my name is Nick Roome, and I'm here on the floor of HFES," and blah 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 blah. Doing all that stuff. Now, I would actually be holding my mic because I'd be live in the moment. I'd have an earpiece on, so it looks, a little bit more like I'm a human there instead of in a podcasting studio with this headset on. And so, thinking about that, I think the look would be different. I'd also have with me sort of an extension. Well, first off, a very long cable for this, yes. So that's plugged in. The other thing I'd have on me is just a set of keys. I don't know if either mounted to the microphone or mounted, to like a little thing on my side, a little holster, so to speak. So that way I can control it from where I'm standing. Either launching pre-recorded commercials for the event, because I'd imagine there's going to be breaks in which I will need to use the restroom that I will need longer than 60 seconds that we have for the Patreon commercial. So I'm thinking like, hey, a Human Factors Cast commercial, a Patreon commercial, or a Human HFES commercial, Human Factors Cast, Patreon, and 1202, all right there in one 4-minute-ish block. And then, coming back. And then, obviously would be set up right by a restroom or something, live stream, cool stuff. And so that would be the setup with a computer right in front of me. Now, the dream is that throughout the event, I would be switching to other cameras, other things going on at the conference, with permission from the hosts and the speakers to do so and broadcast live. And this would be paired up, obviously, across the appropriate channels. And then once this event happens, breaking up everything post hoc and turning it into separate pieces of content, whether or not there's interviews happening or panels that are happening that are being recorded, or plenary sessions. I don't know. I'm getting my hopes up a little bit, but that would be kind of cool. And just do like 1 8-hour day of streaming. It's a long commitment, but I'm willing to make it happen because I think there could be some cool things behind the scenes. I'm going to bring you back up here, Barry. You've been kind of sitting back there behind the logo.
I was quite enjoying just setting this up behind the logo, just chilling out.
So I think there could be some really cool things going on, and I would love to test some like small scale stuff with you. Mainly if you do live stream, it'd be really useful for us, and maybe we'll grab someone from the lab to do this, to be the board operator behind the scenes. So that way I don't have to fumble with keys while I'm there. And they could be, setting up in other locations in the place or in the venue, or, even do it remotely.
Well, this is it. I'm going to have, we can do both because I'm taking some of my team with me. So they think they're going for a nice jolly and all that sort of stuff. Really, they're going to be my gophers. And so in terms of doing some of that we could do that. Because I guess I'm just trying to think. One of the things I'm looking to get before I go, I don't want to get, because I've got an Elgato webcam and I do think it's amazing, but it's also very expensive. So I don't want to get two of them. But but I was thinking about getting the Elgato Cam Link, which means your DSLR will turn into a webcam link.
Right.
And so if you can do that, obviously you then need another computer to hook it to in order to feed into this and make that work as another stream. But that could work in a sort of semi-distributed fashion. As long as you get, where do you get the sound from? Where do you get the sound? Well, they normally have
microphone.
both, don't they?
Microphone.
Yeah, just straight. But if you're trying to get the presenter's audio, then you couldn't really I wonder whether you could just jump on the feed of.
That's what I would propose. Yeah, is like do an XLR interceptor, throw that into an XLR capture that has pass through, and just throw that up on their soundboard, so that way any questions that come through on their output feed, right before it goes to the speakers, it goes to the computer audio, and that way it's just all captured there. The video is picking up whatever, and it'd be pretty cool. I don't know if this is a possibility at Ergonomics Conference. I hear you might know some people, but about plenary sessions and stuff.
I think we could. So they've been very good to me so far in saying that yes, I can definitely podcast from there and do some interviews and stuff. Fantastic. What else could we do? I think it would just be because I think everyone is going to be because we've not been to this location before. So whereas if we were going back to one of the previous locations, I kind of have a warmer fuzzy feeling because you kind of say, well, I'd want to be here because you know what it is. So with this, I've kind of we're just going to sort of see how it works and what it is, and also what we're able to achieve with the technology we've got. So I think taking if I can get this cam link, I've got a camera I can use. We can definitely, even if we set up something experimental,
it'd be very cool.
It doesn't have to be, the full-on experience, but we can set up a remote camera somewhere. Even just looking at 2 different shots of the demonstration area, for example, or something like that, and because I've got roaming mics. So I've got, like I said, I've got the lapel mics, lavalier mics. Because I've been a bit of a sucker for buying kit at the moment, and trying to work out how to get that into the mixing board. But now I've worked that out as well. I do need to test it for broadcast quality. Well, it must be broadcast quality because of what it is, but I don't know what the difference in sound is like compared to, because it's not going to be as good as this. I would
right.
Not. But
and it doesn't need to be. If we're this would be a smaller scale test. I think if we do 2 cams. What's that?
I could do a live test of it now.
Oh, why not?
Could I set that up?
It makes great content. Trying stuff on stream. Why not? It could be a really cool experimental test to kind of prove that it works and say, hey, look, we've captured 2 different video feeds here. Let's expand that into 1 more. And I'm thinking like for HFES. I don't know if you've have you been to the event in person?
To HFES? No.
Yeah. Well, this year might be a great year to come, Barry. I don't know if you're thinking about it.
Well, if they're willing to pay for me to go out there, then I could consider it. But they're quite expensive flights.
Yes, I know.
And I'm a tight northerner.
Let's see. Well, so it would be first off, it'd be great to have both of us present there, but second off, the event itself I was describing. So it is it's I guess technically 5 days. It's Monday night you have a dinner. Tuesday you have the normal sessions all the way through Friday is kind of like a half day. Monday's also workshops, and so it's kind of a 5-day thing. And so what I'm thinking is I will on Monday do the scouting. It will be okay. Where do I want to set this thing up? Getting all the technical issues, doing the tests, go to the dinner, make mistakes, and then come to the event the next day and start broadcasting like 30 minutes before everything happens, and then just kind of cut to different things that are happening throughout the venue, throughout the day. And then what I was thinking would be awesome, Barry, and if this works for you timeline-wise, it's going to be in Atlanta this year. So I'm thinking of, when things typically end in Atlanta, or typically end throughout the day. It's probably around 4 p.m. And if Atlanta's on the East Coast, that's right around the time that we normally podcast. So I'm thinking maybe we do a podcast live from HFES, and that's why I think it would be so cool if you came. But if you couldn't come, we could certainly, I could sit there with somebody else, and phone you in, so to speak. And so it'd be, live at the event, 2 of us, and then, a third you remotely, and you could kind of ask us questions about the event or whatever. Just be a live event, and maybe we can grab a room for that. I don't know who would want to even come to that.
So when is HFES?
So HFES is in October. I think it's the 9th through the 14th.
Is that that one that I'm just looking at? So I'm just trying to 10th to the 14th.
Yes.
Yes, well done. I like that. I'm just trying to make this thing. Hello. Right. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Wow. Is that bad? Good? Indifferent? I feel echoey. Why am I echoing?
It's a little echoey. Do you have both inputs going through your?
No, I've switched off.
Oh, right, because you have the Rode. Okay, yeah. Everything
so I've got my little box here.
Right. Yeah.
It sounds like it's picking up something else. Maybe I just need to.
Can you pick it up and just speak directly into it?
What? Just a bit like this, you mean?
Yeah.
But it should be able to pick up.
No, I know. I'm just making sure. Now, I'm almost like now speak into your other mic. Speak. Yeah.
What, into that mic there, like that?
I can hear you in both of them. So that's why you're probably getting an echo, is because I can hear you through both of them.
But why can you hear me through both of them when I'm switching that one off?
I don't know. Maybe just do a couple tests. Go test until I can't hear you now. Great.
And you can hear me now, but I
can hear you now. That's echoey, but you are also holding it far away now.
Yeah, that's true. And also, I am in a. Hold on, let me just plug this back on to there. I wonder if I got. Let me just rather do.
I can't hear you.
Oh, hello. How does that sound? It doesn't sound any better, does it?
Not much.
Does that sound? Can you hear me now?
That's very tinny.
That's very tinny. So it's got loads of presets settings. So I'm just because hello, wow, that's very loud. Oh, if I turn that down, that's not bad. Well, from this side, it's not too bad.
It's you know what? That's not bad. Here, maybe let's just talk for a little bit and see how that is, because I think it's pretty close.
Yeah, that's doable. I can still hear it being echoey, but I think it's probably because the acoustics in the room is I've got it all sorted out for the pod mic itself,
right?
And then I will have to listen to this afterwards to see if it's just because it might just be because a headphone issue for me as well, because I've got it coming through my headphones quite loud, so. I think I need to play with the microphone settings and see what because somebody must have set these up to go with the Rode deck with the podcaster as well. Right, because they can't have just left it like that because that'd be ridiculous.
Yeah,
but fundamentally we can still. I have the unit set on my thing, and then we go away. And that's my Alexa saying that it can't connect. There's a bit of
that's not great.
But once the router is back on and connected to the internet, she's not connected to the internet. I don't know what.
Yeah, I hear her.
Yeah, I changed my router. That's why. Right, I'm going to go back to this one because I prefer this one. I feel like I'm more back in the room with this one.
Yeah, you are definitely back in the room with that one.
I wonder if this, I think it is part of this. I need to play with it and see what works and what doesn't, because I can't just be scared of it. I've got to make it work.
Yeah.
But
so I think it could be pretty cool to have a full day's worth of programming. It'd be one day live streaming the whole thing, and then kind of from there, like I would go and do the event myself, and maybe the nights after networking come back and edit or clip them down and farm them out. But I think it would be a very cool thing to do, and I think I don't want to get my hopes up too much. Some of HFES leadership is really excited about that potential, and
that's good.
I don't know how much support we'll get for actually setting stuff up, but I imagine like a pass to the better internet at the hotel, or something like that. Might be good, especially if we're broadcasting across both channels, which is the other thing is that, I think it would be a partnership effort. So that way, anything that we're capturing here on Human Factors Cast would be simulcast on theirs end as well. And I'd wonder, if that's something that Ergonomics Conference would want to do too, on their channel. And I don't know if they feel like you're a good ambassador for them or not, or, whatever that is, or the brand or whatever. But
yes, well, I guess judgment on that will come fairly soon. But I can't. I mean, what I thought was interesting was for the size of the HFES they didn't seem to have all the social networks. So, but I think
they're fixing that.
We'll get this. They'll get it sorted out. I think if it's going to be in Atlanta, I'm going to put a business case to the boss, and see if maybe the two of us might come out or something. So I see no reason really why not.
You might want to poke some certain ears about assistance as well, because they might be able to, I don't know.
That's true. Yeah. So
get some assistance with international attendees, especially esteemed ones that may have certain roles.
Yes, no, that's true. I'm just trying to see how much it costs. Holy moly! I've just looked at the cost of going. That's a price. That's a price.
What are you looking at? Airfare?
No. This is just attending the conference.
Okay.
So non-member. Yeah, I'm not. I'm going for the entire thing. I'm not just going for a single day. $865.
It's expensive, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, for everything that's there, I mean, that's quite it's quite impressive. Because it was what I was really impressed with with the town hall, and they've done it on on a couple of things. Is you sort of forget, and I think we've talked about this before, the difference in scale. Yes, you're absolutely right. The difference in the scale is just something else. I mean, I think because I brought up the CIHF staff. The number of staff they've got running it is a very small number. It's an even smaller number now that our chief executive has left, which was slightly unexpected. But then and the number of committees, we have 2 committees. We have an exec, we have a full council, and then we have a professional affairs board. And they're the 3 main committees. Then you've got like other things that like working groups and stuff. Whereas when they brought up the org chart of HFES, there's millions of people. There's so many people on that slide. You couldn't read them because
yes,
the was so small. And you're like, but then you forget that the size that we are here in the UK. We're the equivalent of half a state, or maybe a single state, as opposed to everything else that's going on. So yeah, it's interesting. You just forget that sort of the scale, which is something else. Which is why then you talk about sort of chapters and regions and all the different groups. Because we've been playing around with regional groupings for a while, I think, and certainly since pandemic. How do you and do we actually want to get? Are we able to get some of that? Some of them physical meetings going again, and do you actually want to just physically meet just on a regional basis? Because they're quite big regions for us. We're not used to traveling more than like a couple of hours to things,
right?
And in fact, I get a bit upset at half an hour. So,
where would you be flying out of? Is that Cardiff?
Oh, Cardiff, or I think Cardiff or Birmingham, I would have thought. Or you just drive to London. We make a thing of it. Because what would it be? To Atlanta.
I'm looking at airfare.
Okay. I'm not going to like that, am I?
I don't think so.
Oh, we fly. Was it Fly KLM? Because we do have a date to go with, don't we?
Yeah.
What did we say?
Oh, you know what? It's actually not that bad. It's not that bad. If you, I guess, what is FRA? What is that? Or LHR? What is that?
LHR. That's London
Is that
Heathrow.
London? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you go out of London, 2 stops, you're looking at around $1,000 for round trip. Which, you know
that's
what?
not bad.
That's
pretty
not
good.
bad.
Who's that with?
That looks like
that's
it's.
through Google.
What's that?
Was that just through Google?
That's through Google. Yeah, so it's multiple airlines. But if you don't mind that kind of thing, the layovers in New York is pretty bad though. So
I've never been to New York.
Oh well, you can make a
looking
night
at one
out of it.
on KLM that actually, just fly out in it, which would be a KLM jump to Amsterdam and then Delta. In fact, you need to be the day before because coming in on the start of the conference would be bad.
Yeah.
Except they don't.
That would be anyway. Yeah, that'd be awesome if you could make it.
That could be good fun.
It could be great fun, and
I'm certainly planning for it now. Well, planning for the next couple of weeks, and then put it, the time in place and all that sort of stuff. We could make that work.
Yeah, if you could make that work, we could increase the production value of a live stream tenfold if I had you there with me.
Because there's not only, I guess, being there, but then I could bring, a certain amount of my kit as well.
Yeah.
Within reason of how much you can fit in luggage and how much I'm willing to break. But but certainly, some of the trucks. I mean, I bought now because you know me, I like to buy kit. So I've now bought the travel bag for my podcasting board, and so I'm quite confident about taking that sort of thing traveling now because it should be protected and all that sort of jazz. So yeah, it could be quite good fun, and webcams and that sort of thing. We'd have stuff.
We'd have stuff, and it'd be awesome, dude. It would be so cool to
if we were
start
going
planning that out.
To be fair, if we were going to do that, I wouldn't take anything out with me at all on the flight. I would FedEx a lot of it. Yeah, just a big flight case and get it sent straight there.
Yeah, you could do that. We would need to make sure it gets there at a certain time.
Oh yeah. No, but I'm if we, for where it's at, and I'm sure that there would be other stuff doing similar things, but that means that we could take, we could have enough kit to make sure that we weren't lacking for anything.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Could be very cool.
Yes.
So
let's look into that.
Let's look into that.
That would be cool. So that means then the following year you're gonna have to come over here.
If I could get some assistance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's we might know some people in the know. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean that'd be super cool to do that at some of the premier events. Do you know what's happening next year?
Well, there'll definitely be a conference.
Okay, great. That's a great start. I
think the attitude will be right now is let's get this one out the way and talk about that next month.
Sure. Where would I fly into likely?
You would probably fly. What is it? What year is it? It's 23 next year, isn't it? You'd probably fly into, I would guess, either Birmingham or London Heathrow would be a guess. Because then anywhere else, basically I just come pick you up from. That would be easy. But Heathrow Terminal 5 will probably be your best option.
Yeah. Okay. Let me take a look. If we and it would happen in what month of next year? Do you think approximately?
It's
in April.
It's always in April.
Let me look at March because I can't go that far out yet. But I just want to price on my end. It's 3 days, you said.
Yes, it normally is 3 days. Obviously, depending on what happens this year with this split hybrid, I approach it for 2 days or whatever. But I would guess 3 days because I think I quite like, even if we do more more online stuff, say maybe before or after, I still think having 2 nights there as part of the conference, because normally what happens, it's one of the things I quite like about it. It's normally quite good fun that you normally have the first night is a fun evening where they do either quiz, some funny games and things like that, and normally it's a really good laugh. And then the second night you have the conference dinner. They always used to have the Institute Awards as well, but now the awards night is a different night, which they're doing online. Which for those of you in the UK that are listening to this, the awards nominations is open for you to play with. So if you've been inspired by somebody or some who you think should have the long service award and all that sort of stuff, that's all open for playing with.
So in February, this is interesting. So for February, it's around the same price, but there's there's one caveat, is that I'd have to drive about 3 hours away, or take a train to that airport to fly out of there and then do it back on the return. So that'd be
inside,
but that would save me $300.
Right. Well, like what you just put in the chat to me, I think there'll be some high level of justification.
Yeah.
So I would say, I might know somebody at that point. No, I think that could be, because to be fair, when we've been talking about the whole boosting communication paper type thing, we could link all that together.
Yeah, I think so.
That could maybe be one of the targets.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because I think it's certainly something that's becoming way more on my agenda right now is communicating this stuff. So with the stuff we've been doing around climate economics is, I'm hitting a bit of an interesting period where people are saying, well, we've been doing this for years, and I'm like, well, yes, that's great, you have, and some of the stuff you're doing is absolutely fantastic. The problem is nobody knows about it. And how do we push this idea of doing more and more, rather than doing the work, doing the comms, and how do we build that into what we do? And I think what we're doing here is a prime example of that. Of just putting stuff out there. It doesn't necessarily need to be, fully in-depth, amazing research. Let's just talk about it, and build new jet suits like what we've done this evening.
Yeah, I do want to see what works and what does not, because there's definitely some things that are measurable that I've implemented on this side that have worked, and then there are things that I'm not sure if it's worked, but it is changes actively that we have been making, and it's interesting as a metric of growth. You could measure rate of growth as sort of a measure of effectiveness with some of these techniques that we're using over here. And at this point we have some data, and then we're trying to best we can capture some of those data metrics behind the scenes of what if we're doing works. All that to say, we're in the data collection phase right now, and I'm not sure what we'll do with that data once we actually start to sit down and do it, but it'd be great to kind of use that as a first pass establishment paper, and then in the future actually test, experimentally test some things.
I think there's two papers kicking about that I'd sort of got in the back of my head. One is about communication effectiveness, and basically that exact thing that you're talking about, of how do we take a format and a few ideas that we talked about already, just the podcasting stuff itself, but then also because you were using Twitch, you've been using the Discord and with the lab and stuff like that. How do we measure performance that is in a way that isn't chasing your own tail just around numbers, but is actually providing you meaningful insights, etc., etc. So that's for me one paper. But then the other one is almost a more fundamental around we as a community, human factors practitioners, how do we communicate with each other,
Yes.
and how do we communicate outwardly? Because one of the fundamental problems we come to time and time and time again is, I'm a human factors practitioner. What's that then?
What's that?
Yeah, exactly. And we have conferences and conferences and conferences, and they have done for what, 90 years or so, or however long this discipline's been around, saying, what is human factors? And, I also go to the, can I explain this to my mum? And I still can't. In fact, my dad actually came up with he was talking about it, and he was saying, oh, well, could you do what you do to these factory machines and things? And I was like, yes, I could. And that was almost an epiphany moment when he finally, I think, truly clicked what it is that I do, which is not bad for being 10 years in the business, running your own business, doing this sort of thing. But fundamentally, what have we learned over the past however long of doing what we've been doing about communicating? Because what I found is that there's some episodes, there's some interviews that I've done that I've found truly fascinating, that actually haven't really blipped the stats at all. They've sort of kept in trend. But then there was been some other ones which I was like, they were proposed to me, and I was like, I'm not sure whether that'll float. I'll see what we can do with it and do it. And they blew the charts off. And I've sort of, that was around some stuff that actually, some things that hit the normal charts are things that the internal community listen to because they want to know a bit more, finding it, and it fits in. But the ones that are maybe a bit left field, because they appeal to general people. So I've done one on sleep, and that went down really, really well. I'll keep push that out occasionally again, and that I had a really great interviewee who was awesome, and the subject was fab. And then the one I put out last week on IoT and fire alarms, which was, again, that for some reason, and I don't know whether it's part of the marketing or in fact it can't, because I didn't do because I was stressed and stuff. I didn't get the marketing out when I wanted to get it out. So it can't have been out. I didn't give it any pre-show love in any way, any more so than I usually would. But it got itself a little blip. In the first day, it trended better than quite a few others recently, because I think it was maybe a bit more accessible. It had titling and stuff that people who don't normally listen to what we do were like, oh, okay, that's talking about fire alarms, that might be relevant. So yeah, I think there is something there around how do we communicate, and around what we've done, in terms of this cross the pond type, joining sort of two communities together type thing.
Really, Barry, there's several papers that we could look at here, because we could break down, you're right, there's the kind of the fundamental, how do we communicate with people, but then within that, there's also these very small changes that might actually have a huge impact that we could measure. And one thing that I've been playing around with is titles. I don't know, for a good 20 episodes, I guess, I've started testing out these questions. Does that drive more engagement, or does that drive more clicks to get people to engage with? Are these engaging questions? Are these something that people find interesting enough to click on? And the answer is yes, it's working.
Cool. Okay.
Starting next week, I'm changing the format once again with the titles to test something else. And maybe I start switching them up a little bit to get a more random sample. But this next one is more, that's what I'm looking for. It's like explanatory. You can see it, Barry, in the top left. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's any present anymore on any other platforms. Probably somewhere, but it's more explanatory in nature. It's more of a thought-provoking explanation of how something. What's the word? How do I put it? It's like how an intervention can prevent this really terrible thing. And I'm wondering if that trail of thought is enough to get people to go, oh, that I've never thought about that. I want to know.
Yeah, and there's also something interesting there, isn't there, about what sort of the type of people that we've got coming into the stream. and listening as who are the repeat offenders, and who the newbies, because we want to attract new people in, because that's absolutely one of the things that we want to do. But we also want to make sure that the people who listen once want to come listen again, because it's enjoyable and that type of thing. So
and then there's also another piece of this too that I don't know if we have enough sample size for, but the visual side of it. Do we have compelling enough thumbnails? Do thumbnails drive enough interest to get people into this very niche topic?
It's that is interesting, isn't it? Because I don't hands up, I don't put that much effort into the YouTube side of stuff. I chuck the video up there and let it kind of do its thing and let it play. Because I haven't had the ability to sit down and put that level of production knowledge into it yet. But I would like to spend some time. It might be the sort of thing that I might do. I might do some sort of online course for it or something around all the things that I could do with YouTube to make that play. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that yet. But I know you put an awful lot of effort into doing them sort of bits, or you get Blake to do a lot of effort into those sort of bits.
Yeah, but, and I do try to like improve at least one thing every week. I don't know if that's apparent from listeners or from production standpoint, but there's always I'm like, okay, what can we try different this week that will improve it? Some of the more dramatic ones are things like the title formats. Mm-hmm. Some less dramatic ones would be like, I don't know, trying a different background music right now is different than we normally do. Yes. It's something, it's like, I'm just trying, I'm testing. It may not have any impact on anything, but it's something new, and I push myself to try to do that every week. Another big one is probably like providing those little captions of here's what we did, here's what we talked about this week, in a short paragraph, so that way I can use those on socials. I can use those as a short description. People kind of know what they're in for before they even click on anything. That type of thing, which is pretty standard, but it's pretty late in the game for us.
No, it is, but every little thing like that takes some doing. So I mean, I've been trying to produce the short version audio clips, like your 1 minute long parts of it, or 1 minute or less, and it all takes time to do. Mm-hmm. One of the things I'm trying to improve actually is in the background is reducing the time between the time I say basically press stop on the interview to the time that it's scheduled, ready to publish.
Right.
Because the shorter I can make that time, the less of a pain it becomes for me.
Yeah.
Because as much as some of that is interesting to do and all that sort of stuff, it sort of sucks the fun out of some of it, doesn't it?
It does.
You don't mind doing some of the production, because that's why we're here, and part of it was to learn around that. But when you're up against time pressure, and because you set your own rhythm. You've set a weekly rhythm. I've set a fortnightly rhythm. You sort of hold yourself to that. And if you've got like a last minute interview coming in, and you're like, right, well, I've got this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. You want to be able to wrap that, get it produced, and get it uploaded, ready and scheduled, ready to go live whenever it is that you want, and you want to reduce that as much as you can. So I have been working with that to a certain extent. And before I got the YouTube bit sorted out, I could get it down fairly quickly. Because
what changes about having YouTube? Because so for me, what I do is on the YouTube side of things, I just trim it down. I don't do any special editing. I just provide it as like here you go. The only other editing that I do is if, like, let's say last week we had 3 drops in internet. I've cut those out, but it's a more polished version, but it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of like the intro or the outro under our voices or whatever. It's very stripped back. And I think having it raw like that, in a lot of ways, well, one, it cuts down the time, right? I just need to trim it and say, okay, take this bit out, we're good, and that's the rest. And I do keep in awkward pauses in between some of the breaks, right? So like the Human Factors news plays it in its entirety before it goes to us talking about Human Factors news, rather than cutting it at a point where it will fade into us talking with the music under us. Like the return on investment for doing those little tiny touch-ups to me is insignificant. Like somebody will, it could be done.
I agree. I mean, I guess the bits that I want to do is, when, so some of the other channels I watch, like right at the end, you get the where the point to the different cards they've got around, you look at this episode for this episode for that. And there's things like that I've never done, never truly played with, and never had, when I'm doing it, I don't have the time to sit down and plug all that sort of stuff in, mainly because I just don't know how to do it.
Here, let me give you a little insider tip. That's what I'm doing every time at the end of the episodes when I say, if you enjoyed this episode, check out this one on this other topic. I'm linking them to another topic so they can follow through on similar things. And that's my card on YouTube.
Yes. Yeah.
So here it is. I won't point to it because I'm not sure where it actually shows. I think they actually show up like right here, right below me.
Yeah.
And then here's the full playlist for everything. You can always subscribe right here.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing I want to get into, but just haven't got around to play with that. So at some point I will, and it's on the list, but it's a bit down the list at the moment.
So I can tell you the minimum thing that you can do, which is like very little effort, pretty high return, is at least put an end screen there. I don't know if you have them yet or not on your videos. Just put an end screen there. It'll say, what do you want to put? Like what specific video? Maybe just pick a topic that's similar. If you, without even having to build it into your script or anything like that, just do it. And somebody will be much more likely to be like, oh, that's a similar talk. I'm going to click on that thing, and the thing that I usually do at the end of these episodes in YouTube is I say, okay, well, here's the specific episode. Here's the full episode. Here's the playlist of everything, like right under where you're at, Barry. That's the full playlist of all of our episodes. You can go check that out if you like. But those two are pretty good for normal episodes. But then when I do interviews, it's a little bit different. So like like for the town hall, I listed the other town hall right below. And on that first town hall that I did, I listed my interview with Chris Reed right below. And then the other one, or I guess way over here, the playlist side, that is interviews, right? So it's you just play around with what content you're pushing at the end of those to make it accessible and the next logical step, right? Yeah. I think just thinking, 5 minutes about that, not even 5 minutes, 30 seconds, it will really return some value for you.
Cool. Well, I shall do that on the I'm trying to work out what my next interview is. Next interviews will be Ergonomics Conference. Speaking to Chris Reed, my people talking to his people, and his people talking to my people. We might have a date.
You might have a date. Wow.
Got a date. I'm very excited.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So, Chris is a good chat.
Yeah, so that's going to happen, and then because one of the things I'm trying to do in the background is to get my almost scheduling sorted out. So I've got like my SharePoint stuff. I've got myself a little SharePoint page that has who I'm talking to, what state is that podcast in, and all that sort of stuff. Which on the face of it sounds like a really good idea to do, but then I just keep forgetting to do it. So, but in theory, just having a list of people I know, because there's a few people I've reached out to who've tentatively said yes, they're keen to do it. We just haven't got any dates squared away, but we're going to get some stuff done. So we've got like topics coming up on like rail and what else have we got? Decarbonisation and a couple of other bits and bobs, and a couple of book authors. So it's all there. It just needs done. I just need.
That problem that you described with the tracking status and tracking everything. That's the problem that I'm running into with Human Factors Minute. The last couple, in fact, I need one for next week. You want to record something this weekend, Barry?
Yeah, can do that. What am I doing? Yeah, I've definitely got time to do it if you fire it out.
I can try to send you a script tonight. The sooner you get it to me, the better, because then I can just put it in as like a scheduled thing. So anyway, yeah, that's the issue that I run into there, is because a lot of them lately have just been kind of up against the wall. Like there's been a lot of stuff that I've been working on behind the scenes that have prevented me from doing the batch edit that we used to do. Like, I don't know if you knew this, but when we first started Human Factors Minute, we had a year's worth of content
Really?
banked, scheduled, ready to go. And so we didn't
Wow.
really have to touch it for an entire year. We spent, a couple weeks just knocking it all out. I'd love to do that again, but we did that kind of for the second year. We had about half of them planned, or we had about half of them recorded and all of them planned. And this year we just dropped down to a plan. So now we have a plan for the rest of the year, but they're not written, they're not recorded. And so there's it's like various states. And so now I'm at that phase where I'm just going week to week like this. And I've been kind of tacking it onto the post-production of this, which is taxing. And I really, really just need to sit down a weekend and just knock out, an entire script for the remainder of the year. Because I did that with planning them, and that worked out okay. And if I can just get through the end of the year, all I need to do is send it to you and Blake and have you guys record it. And then produce it, and then that's the other thing is like the production on it is I think the weekly thing too. I don't know. It's a big long time sink, but I don't know. Some people find it useful.
Yes. Well, clearly they do. Otherwise they wouldn't be patrons. So. Which is awesome. We appreciate this one.
Yes, and volunteers too. If I'll use this as a plug, if you're listening and want to get involved, we have a Human Factors Digital Media Lab with a bunch of wonderful, great folks that are truly worldwide. We have folks from Australia and the UK, and we have folks from all over the US and
parts of America.
Yeah, I think there's somebody that I'm talking to from India. So like they're all over the place.
Cool.
And could be a really great opportunity if you are interested in audio production, if you're interested in human factors, communicating human factors specifically. That is something that we are actively looking at. There's a bunch of different task threads that you can get involved with. I feel like I bring this up so frequently. What I probably should do is make a commercial similar to the Patreon commercial that like has details on the lab, and then I can just throw that in, like, I don't know, before or after the Patreon commercial, or even what would be great for that, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, tacking that on to our intro, right before our intro. Did you know that Human Factors Cast has a digital media lab where we look at blah blah blah, and then it goes right into the and then it just goes right into the show, and it's like a pre-roll for the video, but not I wouldn't throw it in audio. Probably I would just keep it.
Well, I don't know. You could do that, but you could also put it in the in that bit that needs no introduction. So basically, the split between the end of It Came Froms and into the One More Things.
Do you want a spoiler on that little bit there? That's that bit, because there's no transition there. It's a cheat, because it's a cheat because sometimes I might need to cut for time. And so if I don't have a transition in there, it's a lot easier to just like fade and put, and I do that for some of our video formats that are limited to 1 hour. Yeah. So it's a little behind the scenes for you.
Yeah. Clever. That's like very tactical. I like that.
Production.
Yes. It's
well, I'm a little cross with my internet service provider because they said the internet may go out this afternoon, and it did not one time. But I guess
it's been rock solid. It
has been. But I guess we'd rather be safer than sorrier here. I think we'll go ahead and.
It's been a fun, different way of doing it.
It has been. I like I said, I will package the first half of this conversation as a podcast. I think that was great conversation and a great precursor to next week, honestly.
Yeah. I think it worked really well.
So we'll throw that in there. And if you've been watching along with us, thank you. Appreciate the live participation. If you are watching this later, thank you for doing that too. That anytime you watch, we do this time because it's convenient for me and it's convenient for Barry, but we understand that not everyone can watch it this time. So thank you for doing that no matter where you are. Really have a sign off for these Human Factors Hangouts other than they're fun and we should probably do more of them. And I would love to do them in addition to our regular podcast because I feel like there's an expectation for that type of content weekly, but then it's like carving out another hour of our time a week, which is already very precious.
Maybe we could do this, I don't know, like once a month, maybe something like that as a as a something. I don't know quite what it would be, but it's I'm sure we can play with something because at some point presumably your internet will get fixed and it'll be rock solid and we can't use that as an excuse anymore. So
yeah, exactly. Well, it'll be fixed tomorrow, hopefully, is the hope. Yeah.
I look forward to seeing you in whatever glory it makes you arrive in.
Yeah, well, it'll look a lot like this.
Fair
it'll
enough.
look a lot like this.
Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out, Barry. I appreciate you. The quality commentary on jetpacks and thank you, Barry. Yeah, thank you, Barry, for the quality comments on jetpacks and art and everything else that we discussed beyond that point that is not in the traditional podcast. But thank you for thank you for hanging out.
It's been good fun. I've enjoyed it.
And if you've been listening to this, if you can't tell, I'm doing an outro for this weird thing. If you've been listening to this, thank you for listening. I know it's not the traditional podcast that we normally do, but we thought that there was good enough content here for you to listen to and enjoy, so we wanted to put it out there for you. We'll be back next week with another regular episode focused on giving jet packs to paramedics and what the implications of that are. So thank you again for listening, for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Take care, everyone.